What is up, guys? Name is Ray and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. In less than a week we have the first rerun of a limited character. We have the rerun of Venti. Unfortunately, we do not have any details for patch 1.4 today. I assume that they will come out with the next 2 or 3 days, maybe tomorrow already. But what we do have today is the character teaser for Venti, and with that we are knowing that he will be the first character that is coming back. And as always, we're asking ourselves the question if we should or shouldn't summon for this character. So because this is the first rerun, the first character that ever is coming back, so Keqing is basically not a rerun. It is her first introduction into a banner as a featured character. Even though she is always available in the standard banner, Venti is the first character that is coming back. Now, there are some things that you guys have to notice. As always, if Venti is your favorite character, then you should go ahead and summon for him. This type of content is always for people that are undecided between if they should or shouldn't summon for the character. So I wasn't really a fan of Venti, but till this day, I do believe that he is the best character in the game, even though he did fall off in the last couple of months, because you cannot use him in all types of content. Nevertheless, until this day, in all types of contents where you can use him, he is the exceptional god. He is always the best performer for the type of contents that you can use him. So you can see that I have a Venti right here. This is not my account. This is the Venti from a friend that did stop playing the game for a while ago. We will go over his abilities in a bit. But what you guys have to notice for the next banners that come after Venti is that Tartaglia or Child will be the character that is coming after Venti. And with Child, there is the release of Rosaria in his banner, which will make people to summon on this banner more likely because Rosaria is a new character. Nevertheless, between those two, if you guys have to decide between Child and Venti, I would definitely say that Venti is the better C0 character. Child is very Constellation heavy, even though he is still very good at Constellation 0. But I think that if you guys are just looking for a very strong character in general, so like it doesn't matter if it is a DPS or a support character, of course you have to differ between those. So we can go in a very controversial situation in the video where we want to talk about Venti. So I did mention that you cannot use him in all types of contents. So he has no use or real uses against world bosses. Venti is more good for grouping enemies and smaller enemies like Hilichurls, which was the content in the Spiral Abyss, or especially in the first Spiral Abyss. But with the new Spiral Abyss, the monsters are getting bigger. So in the current Spiral Abyss, we are fighting 2 Geo Bishops at 12 and at 12-1, and at 12-3 we are fighting 2 Ruin Guards and one Ruin Guard and 1 Ruin Colossus. And Venti has no use against those, so you don't really want to use him against this type of content. And if you do not have him, you will still be able to clear everything. So I think that the most important thing now is that in which state of the game Venti is coming back. So for the first 6 months, he was like the exceptional god in the game, still the best unit. I would still say with his rerun, he will be still the best unit for quite some time. But we do not know what new characters will come after Child. And if it goes like patch 1.3, the current patch, there will be maybe a third banner that we do not know yet about. So that's why it was very unfortunate that they didn't release any banner details or any patch details today. But I will cover this, of course, in the next few days when it will come out. So if you want to be smart, wait at least a couple of days until the patch officially releases. And if we have some information about banners after Child, then you can make a decision. So let's say Venti and Child and Rosaria are the only characters that will come with patch 1.4, and you want to summon for at least one of those 2 characters. And you want to summon for the character that is better or that you need more. So if you need a support character, then Venti is the way to go. He will always fill the right slot. So there's like no wrong team composition with Venti. Of course, there are ways to optimize that, but you can splash him in literally any team and it will work. Other than Child as the main DPS character, he only can really work as a main or maybe sub DPS character, but you have to build around him and his team compositions. If you want to summon for Rosaria, that would be another question or another topic to talk about. But if we only talk specifically about Child, then you really have to build around him if you want to use him optimally. He has some cooldown issues with especially the full legacy Raging Tide. This one has a very long cooldown the longer you use him, because he can change the stance of his E ability. So I did main Child for a very, very long time. I still enjoy using him, but yeah, these were like some issues that you want to fix. Also, you really want to make optimal use of Child. So I always felt like that I want to maximize the damage, and therefore you want to use Vaporize, or you want to use you only can use Vaporized Water. So you always need like a Jangling, a Bennett, or something like that. So automatically, if you play Child, you have to use Jangling or Bennett if you want to use them optimally. When it comes to Venti, you do not have that problem. You just can splash him in your team and he will do the work against like still 70 to 80% of the content in the game. So let's go like over his abilities maybe real quick. He has a double shot. Also what is very important is that Venti is very easy to build. So you can literally give him any type of bow. I would say that Stringless is his best bow in my personal opinion, but literally every bow does work on him because he doesn't have any issues with his abilities. If you want to use his ultimate more, maybe you want to go for an energy recharge weapon, but I would recommend Stringless as the best weapon for him. Same for artifact set. So of course this is not a optimal artifact set. I would recommend to use a 4-piece Viridescent Vanilla set on him. Maybe there is Nobilis or Bleach, but I think that Viridescent Vanilla is the best set because Venti guarantees you Swirl. And also he literally guarantees you this passive, which is actually very hard to trigger, increasing Swirl damage by 60%, decreasing opponent's elemental resistance to the elemental infuse into the Swirl by 40%. So let's say you use any type of supporter or main DPS, let's say Ganyu, because she's one of the most recent DPS characters, use her elemental burst, and you can use Venti's elemental burst and you will trigger this effect because you do swirl the damage. And Venti is one of the best swirls in the game. So Viridescent Vanilla is also a very easy set to pick. You do not have necessarily to have some amazing subsets like crit rate, crit damage, or that type of subset. So you literally can do that with Energy Recharge, Elemental Mercy, but actually for Venti, it really doesn't matter what subsets you do have. They don't have to be optimally to use the character to its actual full potential. And that is the big strength of Venti. He doesn't need high investments. He doesn't need anything. He is good in any type or in any state of the game, which makes him so strong. So he's strong in early, mid, and also in late game. Also, you do not have like the right or wrong artifact sets. Basically, everything does work on him. And that is the big strength on this character. So let's go for his E ability. This one has a multiplier of 297% at level 2, which is already very high. There are other characters that have such multipliers at like level 6. Also, he only has a cooldown of 6 seconds, which is pretty short. And his cooldown on his hold E is 15 seconds. So the longer you hold the E ability, the longer the cooldown would be, but the higher the damage will be. And as you can see, 409% for his full hold E damage is already pretty insane. So I can just show you that real quick here. So let's say you use his E pretty short. You only have like 6 seconds cooldown. But now I'm waiting for the cooldown. If I use it a little bit longer, I have the 15 seconds cooldown, but it will do more damage. Yeah, next thing, of course, the most broken elemental burst in the game, the Windsgrant Ode. This one, if the Stormlight comes into contact with Hydro, Pyro, Cryo, Electro, it will deal additional elemental damage of that type, which is pretty strong. Also, with the Viridescent Vanilla set, you will combine that and you can increase the damage even more. Naturally, Venti, I was always think that Venti cannot deal a lot of damage, but he can do if you do put the right investment into him. But actually, as I already mentioned multiple times, you do not need damage on this character because he will do his work even without any investments. Yeah, these for the multipliers for his ultimate. The duration is 8 seconds, his off cooldown is 15 seconds, and he energy cost is 60. So let's say you use him with another wind character, Gene Venti, a very popular combination, then you won't have any troubles with his ultimate. I would say that you want to have his ultimate always up because that is basically his role. You want to use ultimate, sometimes you want to swap the E in to group the enemies. He's very good for exploration, but basically his main role or the easiest use for him is just swapping in, pop the elemental burst, swap to your main DPS character, and then you can do the elemental infusions during the Wind's Grand Ode. And with that, you always want to have the ultimate up, as I already mentioned. The options for that is to use Jean, because then you have automatically you would have another healer in the team, and you will have another Anemo character. It should also work with Zhao, but I do believe that Venti is like not the optimal support for Zhao, so I would rather use Sucrose or Jean with Zhao than Venti, just because they do not really work together with their elemental burst, because Venti really wants to group the enemies while Zhao wants to make use of the plunge attack, which he cannot do effectively with Venti. Also, Jean and Sucrose do generate more elemental particles than Venti do for Zhao, so Venti is not the best battery, but is still a very good option when it comes to partnering with Zhao. But other than that, as I said, he is very, very good. Now, let's come to the last conclusion, and maybe we want to go over the other talents. So holding Skyward Sonnet creates upcurrent that lasts for 20 seconds. Pretty good. So that is basically his E ability that will have a current that lasts for 20 seconds. Is very strong for exploration wise. So at the beginning of the game, people that don't or didn't have Venti, they did use the Geo Traveler, and then sometimes you have to switch between Geo Traveler and Anemo Traveler for exploration. But people that had Venti at the beginning of the game, they had like no issues at all with exploring the map. Then Stormeye regenerates 15 energy for Venti after effects of Windgrand's Oath end. If an elemental absorption occurred, this also restores 50 energy to all characters to that corresponding element in the party. This one is very insane. So this one is the reason why you do not necessarily need a energy recharge weapon, why I do think that Stringless is the best option, because he does naturally regenerate 15 energy, which is like 1/4 of his ultimate already. So he only does need like 40 energy cost effectively. And this one is Wind Rider. It is also a very strong ability for exploration. It decreases the gliding stamina consumption for your own party members by 20%, similar like other characters that do decrease sprint, or Zhao that does decrease the stamina consumption for climbing. So he has already two very amazing skills for exploration. He has some very strong team abilities. So yeah, if it comes to that, I would say that Venti will be still relevant for at least 2 more months. But the content that we are going, or that we are fighting more against bigger monsters, and Venti is especially strong against smaller monsters or grouping enemies or grouping monsters that can be grouped. But if we're looking at the monsters that came with the last patch, so we had the Geowiships and we had the Lavaturals in the Dragon Spine, and like basically all newer monsters are bigger monsters, and this is like more the end game content. But he will be still very good against domains and dungeons where you want to farm talent books and artifacts. But if you want to fight against weekly bosses, he hasn't such a big use against weekly bosses or against like the newer content that will eventually come to the game. And that is like the thought process that I would give to Venti. Also, we do not know what the next Spiral Abyss will bring us. I do assume that they will give the next Spiral Abyss to Venti. Also, they give out the new weapon, which I want to talk, of course, when the official patch notes do drop. But yeah, that's actually up to you. So, if you want to do a conclusion for today's video, if you want to summon and you want to decide between Child or Venti, the better character is definitely Venti. If you want to decide between Venti, Child, and the maybe third character in patch 1.4, wait at least for 1 week so you guys know if you do like the character or not. But I think that the chances are very likely that Venti will be the best character still with patch 1.4, and with patch 1.5 we will get even more Primogems to summon on. So I think you shouldn't worry if you really want to have this character. Yeah, I hope that I could help you out with my always confusing should you summon discussion videos. But if you guys do so, like, comment, and subscribe. It would help me out a lot, and I see you guys next time.